Hello and welcome to a Geeky Bit Bonus Bites.
Today, I would like to talk to you about a somewhat special retro build. I will be putting together a P2 retro system with a Voodoo 1 card and a Real Creative Labs 16 sound card. I wish I still had my AW 64 gold, but sadly I lost, sold, or gave it away a long time ago. So I hear you ask, what on earth makes this retro build so special? The motherboard, that's what. First, I was going to use an old P2 motherboard I had laying around, but sadly it has some corrosion damage that ruined an IC on the motherboard. So I will be building this system with the dual P2 motherboard I have. I have always dreamed of having one of these back in the day. When I worked at a computer shop, I saw my first dual-slot 1 motherboard. It was amazing, though Windows 98 certainly doesn't support multiple cores or multiple processors. Since that is the case, and I don't have a matched pair of P2 CPUs, I will be going with a single slot 1 CPU. I used a newer PSU I had laying around. As a result, there is no negative 5 volts from what I can tell. I used an older time appropriate ATX case to put all the parts in. Younger me would have loved this system since it would have been amazing. Sadly, back then I was too poor and couldn't buy a full-blown P2 CPU. I had to settle on a Celeron 300A. The good news was that the Celeron held a stable 450 MHz overclock that I had back then. With this system, I am going with a 333 MHz CPU I had laying around. I don't need something faster as I have my main retro system I built a few years back. It has a LGA 775 Celeron in it. This system will be mainly for older DOS and retro games that would benefit from a wavetable add-in for the Sound Blaster card I have. The Voodoo card will also do 3D graphics for games that support early Voodoo cards. Here are the specs. A Pentium 2 333 MHz CPU. Just a quick note, I had to change out the 333 MHz CPU for a 300 MHz, as the 333 was causing some flaky behavior. 160 megs of RAM. A GeForce FX 5700 LE. A Voodoo one. A 10/100 network card. A Sound Blaster 16 ISA sound card, a DVD-ROM drive, a IDE to SD adapter, and a 128 gig micro SD card, a GoTech floppy emulator, a generic 450 watt power supply. I also had to replace the power supply as the first one I used failed as well. The new one is a 520 watt PSU. As for the cost, this is hard to explain. I got the case and several parts from a bulk buy of computer parts that cost about $100. The GPU I got from eBay a while back for another project. It cost about $30 at the time. The good news, these cards can still be had very cheap and are decent cards. The GoTech and IDE to SD adapter were also from another project, so I couldn't say an exact number. But if I had to guess with current prices, the total system would be around $250. Let's take a look at some games on this system.
Welcome to Voyager LCAR's menu system.
Control 70,000 light years across the galaxy Delta Quadrant. There, without aid from Starfleet, we began our 70-year journey home.
I'm pretty happy with how this system turned out, and once I get a wavetable add-on, I think this system will really shine.
I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, and if so, feel free to click that like button. And if you're not subscribed already, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to get notifications of my future videos, click that bell button.